Hello, this is Sheyi Obasi, and I welcome you to today's video where we're going to be talking about something really, really important and vital for everyone that is thinking of coming to Canada to study, and that is proof of funds. So today we're addressing proof of funds and how you can address it. Proof of funds is actually a headache for a lot of people, but today we're going to demystify it, and then you can begin to look at options of how you can actually address your proof of funds issues, okay? So the first thing is, what is proof of funds? Just like the name implies, it is proof that you have money to take care of yourself and any family members that will come with you to Canada while you study. And the reason why this is important is because the Canadian government is not going to provide living expenses for you. It's not going to provide accommodation for you and your family. You are actually responsible for taking care of your accommodation, of your feeding, of your living expenses for yourself and any family member that you come with to Canada. And the visa officers are looking to be convinced, that's the word, convinced that these funds that you have presented are actually real, they are valid, and they are available for you to use. So you can put proof of funds of 50 million, but if the visa officer does not believe that those proof of funds are available for your studies, that is going to lead to a refusal of your visa. Okay, so proof of funds is money. It's money or money-like things that maybe bank statements or investments that you can easily convert to cash. Do you understand? So a house or a piece of land or a car is not proof of funds because it's not money. It's not easy to convert it into cash. So they want cash-like investments like mutual funds or a bank statement or actual cash. This is what will convince the visa officer, and this is what you should use as proof of funds. So let's look at some things that you can use to show proof of funds. Your own personal account, so your personal bank statements, your personal mutual funds, your personal fixed deposits, your personal investments in your own name. And when it comes to Canada, you should have had that money for at least 6 months, okay? 4 to 6 months. I usually recommend 6 months, but they have specified 4 to 6 months in the RCC website. So you need to have had money in your personal account for 4 to 6 months. So one thing I'm going to say, 2 things you should avoid. Number 1 is fake bank statements. I know there are people who provide fake bank statements services, which is just crazy. Do you understand? And there are some people who actually get agents and they know that the agents will put bank statements from sources that they are not aware of, and they let them do it. And people have actually been banned for 5 years from Canada just for these fake bank statements, okay? The visa officers are not fools. They've seen these things happen several times. They can spot these bank statements, and don't forget that they do confirm from your bank when you submit your bank statements. One of the things that you signed off when you were submitting your visa is that they are allowed to actually poke into your business. By submitting your bank statement, you're allowing them to actually confirm from your bank, and they can do that. You do not want to be found with a fake bank statement. The number 2 thing are lump sums, okay? Don't go dumping lump sums of money into your account before you print out your bank statement for visa. There needs to be a trend over the last 4 to 6 months. If the visa officer does not see that trend, they do not believe that the monies are yours and will be available for your studies. Lump sum is one thing you need to also avoid when you're presenting your own personal bank statements. Now, the other thing that you can use is a scholarship or funding letter. Now, if you get a funding for your studies or you get scholarship, those letters are actually proof of funds. Now, usually if you get a part scholarship, the letters will only suffice for part of the money that you need. But if you have a funding letter for the entire of your tuition, then you don't need to provide any proof of funds for that part of your tuition. Now, when it comes to proof of funds, there are 2 things that you need proof of funds for. Number 1 is your tuition. Tuition for 1 year. So if your studies is $15,000, for example, for 1 year, you need to show that 1 year that you have that 1 year proof of funds, and then your living expenses, which is $10,000 per year. So that's what you need, 10,000 per year for living expenses and your tuition. Okay, so if your scholarship letter, for example, covers like 75% of your tuition, you need to now show the 25% plus your living expenses. If your funding covers the 100% of your tuition but doesn't cover living expenses, you only need to provide proof of funds for your living expenses. If you don't, and usually your letter of admission would show scholarship and funding that is due to you, so you can actually use that as proof of funds. The third one is that you can actually use a sponsor. Say you don't have a scholarship, you don't have your own monies, you can use a sponsor. A sponsor can be a family member, a sponsor can be a company, which is like a third party, a sponsor can be a friend, a sponsor can be just about anybody, but there are modalities to making the visa officer believe that that person is an actual sponsor, that's a genuine sponsor, and that the monies will be available to you. Now, I might not be able to go into all the ways that you can prove that, but when you're using a sponsor, the same things apply. Do not use any fake accounts, and then avoid lump sums. I know people who put lump sums in their parents' account and say that their parent is their sponsor and think that the visa officer is stupid. No, if they see lump sum in your parent's account, which you moved from several places, they would deny your visa, and you don't want your visa denied, because having one visa denied makes it difficult for you to get your visa approved the second time, because not only are you applying to have visa approved, you are proving that you have met all the reasons for which you were denied before, okay? And so when you use a sponsor, they should be ready to give you a sponsorship letter where they state categorically what they're sponsoring you for, how much they're sponsoring you, and why they are sponsoring you. Why does that cousin of yours want to spend, who knows, 5 million naira, whatever amount of money to sponsor you to school? What are they going to get back? Why does your company that you've worked with for only 6 months, why are they ready to sponsor you? So these are little things. That's why I've seen people submit applications and say, oh, I submitted a bank statement of 50 million and I was refused. Of course you were, for several reasons. Just because you had a bank statement of 50 million doesn't mean that the visa officer is convinced that the money is genuine and it's actually available to you. I know it sounds all wishy-washy because you're like, oh, but the monies are there. There are several other things that the visa officer is looking at: the trend in the account, the proof of relationship, different things like that, okay? So the next one is a study loan letter. So some of us can actually get loans from one of these loan organizations, and they will actually give you a loan letter. And if they don't, you can ask them for a loan letter that you can use for your visa. Like we explained for the scholarship and funding, whatever portion of your tuition and living expenses that the loan covers, you do not need proof of funds for that, because that is actually standing as proof of funds. So you just now need proof of funds for whatever the loan doesn't cover. Another one you can do is, if you now find out that, hey, I've looked all around, I don't have the money, I don't have a sponsor, I couldn't get scholarship or funding, and I don't have loan, what you can do is that you defer your admission and actually plan. Some people are so much in a hurry. They are like, I must leave my country this year, or I must come to Canada this year. Yes, you will come to Canada, calm down, but you don't want to rush, okay? Someone like me, I planned for a while. Do you understand? So I was saving money. I was putting, because I knew I need this money for like 6 months. You need to plan. You can defer your admission. Tell them you're not ready or something. Let them defer it to the next year, so that you can have time to plan. You can have time to put monies together in an account. You can have time to save. You can have time to look for a loan or a sponsor. But the most important thing is that you want to get it right the first time that you actually apply for visa, okay? And then proof of funds, since it's one of the most critical things, you actually want to get it right. So defer your admission and make a plan. Follow the plan. Just you have a goal. You want to come to Canada. It might not be this year. It might be next year. Don't worry. You've been in that country for God knows how long, at least 15 years. You're not going to die in the next 1 year, so you can plan. Okay, I recommend this to a lot of people. They don't listen sometimes, but I tell them that is the way to go. You want to get it right. So plan, defer your admission, and wait, get it right the first time. Another way you can do this is a combination of any of the above. So say you have part of the money in your own account, you can actually get a sponsor for the other parts. So it's always advisable, even if you have a sponsor, to also provide your own bank statements. Or if, for example, you have a study loan letter, like we said before, you also combine it with a scholarship letter or any of the above. Most important thing is that those letters or whatever it is you're submitting as proof of funds must be genuine and they must be valid. If not, the visa officer will not be convinced. There are several scenarios that I could have talked about. And also, I have in the Canada JAPA system that I've shown samples of refusal notes as GCMS notes, not just the refusal letters, the ones that we have requested from IRCC that shows reasons why they've rejected some applications, even though they did show enough money. The visa officer refused for lump sum, they refused for no proof of relationship, all sorts. Do you understand? Even though you do have these monies. So these are some of the things you need to consider if you're trying to get or to show proof of funds for your